Three bad fairies at the Euro feast. Those are the spectres haunting Reuters Breakingviews editor Hugo Dixon, who joins me with today's op-ed column. In Hugo's sights, French President Nicolas Sarkozy and Prime Ministers Mariano Rajoy of Spain and Greece's Lucas Papademos. New worries are emerging about Spain and France, says Hugo, and of course, Greece isn't even remotely fixed. Hugo, good to see you again. OK, let's start with France. Why is Sarkozy, or more broadly speaking, France, in your sights here?
OK, I mean, just to be clear, I'm not pinning it specifically on these three people. I'm more about the three countries and the problems that they're causing. But, I mean, start with Sarkozy. We got this election campaign. He wasted his first term as president, and it actually, and the French people are just not willing, most of them, to accept that the country needs to change. All that Sarkozy managed to do, of any sort of material nature in his previous his first campaign was first term was to cut the pension age from 62 to 60. It really needs to be about 70. And Hollande is talking about partially reversing even that. So we've got a big problem that isn't being fully focused on, which is probably going to come out and rear its ugly head in the next few months.
Well, Sarkozy is going to pay the price for that because, by the looks of it, he's not going to get back in.
No, but the point is that his replacement, Hollande, may be even worse.
Worse in whose eyes? In the eyes of...
In the eyes of what's needed in order to make a sustainable economy and a sustainable financial situation. OK,
let's move on to Spain and Greece now, of course. Talking about the personalities involved, specifically Mariano Rajoy and Lucas Papademos have been widely lauded and praised, certainly from the international press, for their efforts in trying to steer their countries back on track.
Yeah, the problem with Spain, I mean, there are slightly different ones. The problem with Spain is that Rajoy, I mean, I actually think he is making the right noises, but he's got an almost impossible task because what was actually left to him, the legacy by Zapatero, the previous prime minister, and he has got to cut the deficit, the fiscal deficit, from 8% to 4.4% in 1 year. And that is virtually impossible. And if they really try to do that, that's going to be a sort of suicide for the Spanish. And somehow or other, we've got to find a way of getting them off that hook, where there's some sort of trade-off that says something like, OK, you can go faster on these structural reforms, such as labour reform, which he's about to come out with, but then you'll be given a little bit longer to deal with your austerity programme.
But, of course, that's not what Germany wants. Germany wants them to go full steam ahead on all fronts, in terms of austerity and cost-cutting.
That is certainly the current perception, but you never know whether Merkel has shifted until the last moment.
Well, that brings me on to my next question. If we're talking about these three bad fairies, as it were, in many people's eyes, the fourth bad fairy, if you like, and worse than any three combined, is Merkel herself, for what she's doing in terms of putting Germany's imprint on the whole Eurozone bloc. With recession across the whole area, this discipline is making it worse.
I think that she has had some positive aspects, actually, to tell you the truth. But in the last few months, I think that her desire for extra austerity on top of austerity is proving counterproductive, and she risks becoming the bad fairy in the story. But if you want to say another bad fairy, but if you want to say who could be the good fairy, I mean, she can still change. And you've seen some flexibility from her on this sort of the size, or possible flexibility on the size of the European firewall. And once they've got this fiscal treaty in place, you might see a little bit more flexibility.
Finally, though, very briefly, it seems unlikely, though, given that to tell the German public, yes, we're going to relax on Greece, when Greece isn't seen to be making the efforts Germany requires of it.
Greece is a real problem. No doubt about it, but I think probably there will be some form of compromise. I mean, the Germans want this sort of pretty harsh economic protectorate. The Greeks obviously don't want that. You know how Europe works. There's almost always some sort of muddle in the middle.
And it will also take a lot of time as well. Hugo, thank you very much. My thanks there to Reuters Breakingviews editor Hugo Dixon. Join us for the European edition of Breakingviews each weekday at 10:30 GMT. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.